Okay, let's continue and let's take a look at the syntax of the while loop. And of course, the keyword is a while. So after the while, and you have a text expression. And usually for the text expression, that is a Boolean expression, which gives you either a true or a false. And then well, the same thing to the for loop, and then we have the colon, and then the body of the while loop. And after that you can also do an else and that well, and then you can have more statements if you want to. Okay, and the rule is, as long as the condition is true, we are going to run the body of the while loop for once, and then we come back and we test this expression again. So it is possible that when we come to a while loop, when we try the test expression the very first time, that is a false. And then we will skip all the body of the while loop and then we go to the else. Or we are gonna, if this expression gives me a true, and then I'm gonna run the body once before I check the condition again. Okay, so let's see an example. And say we have the variable n as 1, and then while, well, I usually read while as long as. Well, this is the way that we can better read and understand the code at the same time. So let me read the code again. N is 1, and then as long as n is smaller than 5, and then what we are going to do is we increase the n by 1, we print the value of the n, and then eventually after we finish all the possible rounds of the iteration, we do else, and then we print done, right? So for the first round, we have the n as 1 and n is smaller than 5. That is true. So we increase n by 1. Now n is 2, and then we print n. So what is the first value we print? That's a 2, right? And then well, 2 is still smaller than 5, so we check this condition again. This condition is still a true, so we increase n again. Now n is a 3, we print n. After that, we check this condition. N is 3 but still smaller than 5, so increase n again. Now n is 4, we print n, so we print 4. And after that, we check this condition. N is 4 smaller than 5, that is still a true, so n increased by 1, so now n is 5 and 5 is printed, and we check this condition again, and this condition is 5 smaller than 5, which is not true, so that is the point we want to stop this iteration. And if you want to see what we have printed, we have 4, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And eventually, after we finish all the iteration, we have the done, right? So eventually we print the done. And well, if you want to map this iteration to this analogy, and then before we enter the iteration, we have the n equals 1, and then the condition we want to check is as long as n is smaller than 5, and if it is true, we go inside, and then otherwise we go out, right? So, and then in the body of the iteration, we increase n by 1, and then we print that. So if you have some difficulty on understanding a while loop, and usually I want to put all the different pieces of the code into this image and then try to add all the pieces of the code to the right places, and then it will help you figure out how does a while loop work. Okay, so we can do a few more examples. Let me do a line here. Say I want to print, print, and then a line, repeat for 10 times, and then I want to say I want to import a random. Later I may want to use that, and say say I want to create a string called my num equals 10, and then while my num not equals 20, and then I want to increase my num by 1. Okay, so if you want plus equals 1. Okay, if you want to use my way to read this part of the code, that is, well, I create a variable called my num, and that is 10, and then as long as my num is not 20, I increase that by 1. So every time I increase that by 1, and if gradually I want to increase this value from 10 to 20, and when it is already 20, and then I want to say, okay, stop, right? Well, I can do else, okay, and then print my num should be 20 now. Okay, so well, this is the way that I can use the else statement. And if I want to run this, and well, you don't see anything. You don't see my num is changing, right? So how about we do this? We print my num is not 20 yet. I will increase the value. Okay, and then for every round, if my num is not 20 yet, I'm gonna print my num is not 20 yet, and I will increase the value, and then I increase the value, and then I want to go back and check it again. Okay, so if you do this way, and I'm gonna print my num is not 20 yet, I will increase the value. Okay, well, let me do another example. Say I want to do a while. I want to get a random value first. Say my rand value equals random dot rand int. Oops, rand int. And then from 1 to, let me just do from 1 to 15. Okay, 1 comma 15. And then while my rand value equals 15, and then well, and print, okay, Young's marriage proposal was a success, and otherwise I'm gonna stay in this iteration, and oops, so while, oh wait, oops, I think this one is wrong. So as long as my rand value is not 15, and then I'm gonna say print say propose 1 month later, said by Young's girlfriend. And otherwise else, I say print Young's marriage proposal was a success. So let me explain this code, and then I want to get a new random value here. Okay, so at the beginning, I want to generate a random value between 1 to 15. Okay, and then as long as the random value I generated is not 15, is not the maximum value possible, and then my girlfriend will say no. And then, well, I will print propose 1 month later, said by Young's girlfriend. And then I'm gonna regenerate a random value. And then say 1 month later, and then I'm gonna go and check this condition. If this value is not 15, I'm gonna propose, I'm gonna fail again. So this is kind of a game that every time I propose to my girlfriend, and she will generate a random number between 1 to 15. If the random number generated between 1 and 15 happens to be the maximum value possible, which is 15, and then she's going to agree that she will marry me. Otherwise, I have to wait for 1 month later. The next month when I propose to her, she will again generate a random value between 1 and 15. If that is 15, and then I have my best luck possible. Otherwise, I have to wait for 1 month. Okay, so this should be a funny simulation. So let me see how it works. Oh boy. So you see, well, every time you see propose 1 month later, and then this means that random number is not 15. And if you want to count, I see almost 30 proposals before I finally got a success. Okay, well, and if you want to make it even harder for me, you can make it 100, for example, and then you can also make this value 100, and then this proposal is going to be much harder. Okay, so again, for this version, or this version, when we start running this iteration, we kind of have no idea or very limited control on how many runs this iteration is going to run before we finish, right? So that's the point of a indefinite loop. Okay, so let's come back to our lecture notes and let's take a look on this example. So what will be the sequence of the number printed by the program below? So take a look on this code. So let's try to run this code together in our minds. Okay, so if we want to read this code, that is, we initialize an x to be 6 at the very beginning, and as long as x is still greater than 0, what is this? This is x minus equals 1. So we decrease the x value by 1. We print the value of the x, right? So the first round, x is 6. 6 is greater than 0. And then we decrease the value by 1. We have 5. And then we print. So the first value we print should be 5. Okay, so C or D one of the C or D will be the right answer. And the next question is, well, when we say, where do we stop? Say, well, if we print 5 and 4 and 3 and 2, okay? So say if we are 2, so 2 is greater than 0. And then x decreased by 1, so now x is 1. And then we print 1. So 1 can be printed. And then 1, which is x, is greater than 0, right? And then x decreased by 1. Now x is a 0, and then we are going to print 0. So 0 is printed. And then x, which is 0, greater than 0, will be a false. So we stop. So before we stop, we did print 0. So the right answer of this question should be from 5 to 0. So C should be correct. Okay, I want to stop from here and I will talk about the infinite loop in the next video.